Welcome to the commentary to the Afghanistan Memorial. My name is Bernard Kast, generally known as Military is Visualized. If you want to watch the actual memorial video, see the link below. It is on my main channel, while this video is on my second channel. First off, a big thank you to Michael White, who runs the iCasualties.org site, from which we got the initial dataset. I tried to reach out to Michael several times, but without any success. Next in line is Andy from Canada, who helped me verify, add and remove a lot of datasets, particularly for the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and a few other countries. Special thanks to David, Eike, Andrew, Max Ravenclaw, Martin, Neverongan and Firefly. Finally, also thank you to the members of the Wald der Erinnerung, the Bundeswehrverband, the ZMS and the German Ministry of Defense for answering my various inquiries. Be aware that for everyone involved, only a handful of people actually knew what I was working on exactly. So what was your inspiration for this video? I first had an idea to make an international Afghanistan memorial and began emailing some people about the project in early September 2021. Around that time, I saw several tweets on Twitter where one account posted the photos and basic data of service members that had fallen during the Afghanistan missions, which touched me. Sadly, I can't find these tweets anymore or accounts. If anyone knows, please let me know in the comments. Of course, the other inspiration is the US Vietnam Memorial. Why now? You may ask why I'm releasing this video only now in March 2023. Well, the answer to that is rather simple. I started in 2021, yet since I have limited time next to my regular YouTube content, I generally do projects like this during the Christmas, New Year's period. Yet in 2021 I had to finish my articles for the Panzerkonferenz, so I only picked it up again in December 2022, and I finished it now by taking some time out and not posting my regular content. Your data is wrong. The first US person killed in Afghanistan was... Some people will likely point out that Johnny Michael Spann was the first American killed in combat during the United States invasion of Afghanistan in 2001. Yet my list starts off with Evander Andrews. This is due to the fact that non-combat casualties are also included in my list as far as I know. There are many reasons for this. One of them is I also want to raise awareness that non-combat casualties should not be underestimated, as experienced military historians know well. I assume some or even most of you know the series Band of Brothers. There it is depicted as well, when Easy Company is stationed in Austria after the war, yet still suffers losses. Discrepancies and inconsistency with the data. This brings us to the main section, namely the discrepancies and inconsistencies in the data. As mentioned, the base data is from iCasualties.org, yet we added a lot of different data and updated it as well. The dataset I downloaded had 3,590 entries. Our current dataset has 3,704 entries. We added all the unknown ranks and names. For US members, I also added the missing states. Be aware that they might not always be correct due to various issues, particularly for US citizens that were born outside of the US. I corrected also some minor issues. For instance, the branch for the US Marines in the original dataset was US Marine, not US Marine Corps. Some major changes. What are some major changes and noteworthy changes? Well, probably the most important one is Spain. Officially, Spain lost 35 soldiers in Afghanistan. Yet, Spanish Wikipedia lists actually 104. To make the situation more complicated, not all of them were Spanish citizens, since Spain allows non-Spanish citizens to serve. As such, they are citizens from Colombia, Ecuador, Peru and Equatorial Guinea, listed for the Spanish Armed Forces. Of the 104 Spanish losses, 2 were interpreters and 2 policemen. We did not include the interpreters, but included the policemen. One of the main reasons why Spain has such a discrepancy is that officially it seems they did not account for losses during transit. Spain suffered a lot of losses in aircraft crashes. The most notably was a crash in 2003 of a Yak-42 that killed 62 members that were on their way back from Afghanistan. About inconsistent ranks. Ranks are not always translated into English. In some cases we went with the original ones. Homogenizing would have been possible, but generally translating ranks correctly can be more of an art than a science. One could go that way with the NATO rank system, but the chance of introducing more errors is always there. Additionally, this could break the meaning of the rank, and in some cases figuring out what rank actually is can be extremely difficult, for instance for Poland or Turkey. We are aware that in some cases we added ranks, in some cases we updated them, but in some cases they might be in English despite being non-English ranks originally. As such, you may see some inconsistencies. For some countries like Germany, I specifically updated all ranks to the original German ones. Also, the ranks might be inaccurate in various ways, because in many cases they were posthumous promotions. I think particularly for Romania this was the case. Finally, now some of you might know that the US Navy ranks can be quite difficult and confusing. I generally went with the simple ranks, for instance, Chief Petty Officer First Class instead of Information Systems Technician, Petty Officer First Class, Expeditionary Warfare Specialist. This was also to a certain degree necessary to keep the font at a proper size. Names. About the names we found some typos, I suspect there are more. Additionally, the order might be incorrect. I particularly did quite some work on the Spanish names to fit them to our style. Now, Spanish names often consisted of 2 first and 2 surnames. For the most part, we put the last surname at the beginning and the other names at the end. This might not be correct, but I don't see another option to fit the overall naming scheme. Additionally, from my limited experience with teaching in Ecuador, if I remember correctly, each person generally had one preferred first and surname, which generally can't be determined from a list. Of course, this might be quite different in other Spanish-speaking countries or even other regions of Ecuador. Wrong US states and cities. For all the US service members in our list where the initial data on the state and or city was missing, I added them via checking the Department of Defense data available. I noticed that in some cases the data was wrong. For instance, the known city or state differed from the records. In these cases, I updated the data. Yet I suspect that various other entries might be wrong, since I only double-checked the missing ones, which were the minority since Michael did an amazing job. Note, the cities were ultimately cut due to space issues. I kept the states due to the significance they have for the people from the United States of America. Thanks to Andrew for confirming my basic understanding of American culture here. More US losses than noted elsewhere. Some might point out that our loss numbers for the US are higher than the official numbers provided by various organizations. Well, there are several reasons for this. First, we included CIA members when available, additionally also contractors to CIA, Department of Defense, etc., as well as long as we had data on them. Finally, in some cases losses happened during transfers, etc., so one might count them while others don't. We added them when they were available to us, for instance with the Spanish losses that were provided on the respective Wikipedia pages. Date of death. Now about the date of death, we corrected various entries here. In some cases this comes down to different time zones and likely also reporting issues, like preliminary reports that were wrong. Additionally, I found various errors, particularly on German Wikipedia. These errors stem in my opinion from the fact that people accessed iCasualties.org without knowing that Americans generally use data formatting sequence month, day, year, not day, month, year. This resulted in some cases where the 9th of August became the 8th of September. I have official confirmation by the German Ministry of Defense that on 8th September 2007, no German service member died in Afghanistan. Be aware, I did not update any Wikipedia articles. Germany has 4 branches. A final word about Germany. One branch might be incorrect. The Ministry of Defense noted that Streitkräftebasis, translated to Joint Service Branch, as a branch. As such, I used it, although I'm not certain this is technically correct. The same might apply to various other countries as well. If you have any further questions, please comment below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.